Sebastian is having a child with that woman. My nails painfully dug into my palm as hot tears streamed down my face. For the last 3 years, I was never treated as a wife in the true sense of the word, but I stayed loyal to Sebastian. And this shocking revelation about his illicit affair with Hillary had taken its toll on me. My heart hammered inside my chest as I zoomed in on the photo of a sonogram on Hillary's Instagram with the caption, "Your dad and I are excited to meet you soon. We love you so much, our baby." My emotions were overriding every fiber in my body as reality slowly sank in. I felt like dying, except that I was breathing. Pulling all the remaining strength in my body, I took the courage to read the nasty comments, all pointing to me. At Anthony, yeah, better than the legal one. At Percy, time to leave your lousy wife, lol. At Andres Montero, nice catch, mun. At Sandler Macchiato, drop the jinx, staying in the penthouse, haha. I logged out of my account and cried harder against the sheet. I was still in that position when I heard the door open in a blast. Wiping the tears with the back of my hand, I could feel his domineering presence wafting in the entire room, but I took the courage to gaze up at him. "See, can we talk?" I managed to ask in between sobs. He didn't answer, but his cold glare sent chills down my spine. And before I could say another word, Sebastian walked towards the bathroom and slammed the door closed. I flinched as the strong impact vibrated through my ears as the slosh of water cascaded from the shower. I am certain he was with that woman all day. I was starting to entertain depressing scenarios in my head when the door to the bathroom swung open. Sebastian walked toward the built-in closet and changed into casual clothes. With that, I hinted that he was not staying with me tonight. The thought only made my heart sink, and the cold knot in my stomach tightened even more. "Sebastian, please, I have something to tell you," I pleaded softly, carefully getting out of bed. He shot me with a hard stare and said, "Unless it's not important, then don't push it." I saw Hillary's post. I bit my lower lip and looked down at my bedroom slippers. "Don't get involved. It's none of your damn business," he replied in a stern voice. I squared my shoulders and said, "But I'm still your wife. I have all the right to demand an explanation from you. You call yourself a wife when you couldn't bear an heir for me. Stop messing around, Pauline." I held onto the sleeve of his shirt, stopping him. "Don't put all the blame on me. You're so unfair." Suddenly, Sebastian hastily grabbed both of my arms and shoved me against the wall. His eyes were like daggers, cutting me into bits. I fought hard to squirm free from his hold until he pushed me down to the floor. I gasped in horror and crossed my hand onto my stomach. He had never been violent until now, and it scared me. I couldn't even move. In gritted teeth, Sebastian snarled, "Stay away from Hillary and my child. I swear I'm going to kill you if anything happens to them." I could not believe what I heard. I watched Sebastian storm out of the room. For a moment, I felt like my tear ducts had opened, causing tears to flow non-stop. Gathering all my remaining strength, I pulled the luggage and disorientedly packed my stuff. I've had enough of his inhumane treatment. More than anything else, I should protect myself and another soul. Swiftly took a pregnancy test kit from my purse and held it against my chest. Darkness welcomed me as I stepped inside my apartment. I switched the light on and pulled the luggage toward the compact living room. Emptiness and loneliness flooded through me as I looked around the house. It seemed like yesterday when my parents gifted me this place on my 18th birthday. Sebastian once told me that Mom and Dad had been living in another state since we got married. I'm not allowed to see or talk to them as it was stipulated in our billion-dollar contract. I lost contact with them. I didn't even know where exactly they reside now. For the record, I am not mad at them. Instead, I missed them so badly. Letting out a tired huff, I gently caressed my belly. In 9 months, I would see my bundle of joy, and I was scared and excited. Too bad, Sebastian would never get a chance to see our child. I squeezed my eyes chapter shut and hummed a lullaby, the very song my mother used to sing to me. I cherished the moment for a while until my phone buzzed. I fluttered my eyes open, fished for the gadget in my purse, and saw Sebastian's name on the screen. Rage surged through me as I recalled the way he threatened me back in the penthouse. He doesn't deserve to know anyway. It would be better than living with Sebastian's lies and fake love. Besides, I wouldn't want my child to grow up in a toxic relationship like ours. "We'll get by, my baby," I said, softly tapping my stomach. "Mommy will do everything to guide you. No one can ever hurt you. I promise." "What does this selfish liar want?" I hissed and cursed colorfully. I may be kind and understanding, but cheating is non-negotiable. I could not stomach the thought of him eating with 2 honeypots at the same time. That was disgusting and unforgiving. Hissing profanities, I promptly switched off the phone. I needed to divert my attention because stress would jeopardize my and my baby's health. So instead of sulking, I decided to remove my stuff from the luggage and then put it in the dresser. Next, I headed to the shower to cool my nerves down. I was pretty exhausted but content with the beauty of solitude. It was almost midnight when I lay on the bed and drifted asleep. After 2 days, I finally made up my mind. My husband broke my heart into pieces, yet I won't let myself drown in despair. I took a quick shower and slipped into a simple white dress matched with nude strappy sandals. Finishing my light makeup, I hooked my studded bag in my arm and took a once-over glance at myself in the full-length mirror. I had to keep my mind straight and get on with my plan to finally divorce Sebastian Levine. It took me an hour's drive before I arrived at the law firm I chose to collaborate with. I couldn't wait to cut ties with my good-for-nothing husband. I breezed through the receptionist and informed her about my case. She ushered me to the lounge area, and a minute later, a tall, domineering yet smokingly hot lawyer walked toward me. He was dashing in his gray suit and loafers. I looked up at him. He towered over me, and his menacing eyes were as if reading me like a book. His intense gaze lasted for a second until he opened his mouth to speak. "I assume you are Mrs. Levine," he said. I stood up, cleared my throat, and answered, "Yes, I am. Maximus Clever at your service. I'll be handling your case until then." He stretched an arm for a handshake and I politely took it. "I am expecting the best from you, Mr. Clever. Please do not disappoint me." I managed to smile at him, but his face remained stoic. "Don't worry, you're in good hands, Mrs. Levine." I felt relieved, but why did his calm voice feel like a warning in my ears? We were silent during the trip. As much as I wanted to ask why he'd offer me a ride home, I couldn't. Well, I wouldn't deny that I was still in awe since we left the coffee shop. I mean, maybe he's just being polite because I am his client, or because I looked like a charity case in this awful situation I am in. Why not? A pregnant woman about to be divorced in a stranger's car. I was at his mercy. Whatever his reason was, it's not my business anymore. And the only thing I'm grateful for was his generosity. Later, Maximus pulled his red convertible in front of my apartment. My vision was starting to turn hazy as I moved. This headache was killing me, but I couldn't take pain relievers at this rate. Slowly, I cast my eyes toward Maximus. His hands were clamped around the steering wheel while his eyes fixated in front of the road. Shifting against my seat, I fumbled for the seatbelt and swiftly removed it from my body. His gaze averted to me, causing me to flinch a little. Does he even know how to smile? "Gosh, he's hot and cold and in between. How are you feeling?" he abruptly asked, giving me the envelope with divorce papers. I took the envelope and replied, "Not good, but nothing that I can't manage." His forehead scrunched as he said, "You're not a good liar, Mrs. Levine." I bit my lower lip. Am I too obvious? But why should I bother explaining myself? It's not like I am responsible to tell him everything about me. He's my lawyer and nothing more. Straightening my back, I courageously said, "Thank you for sending me home. I really appreciate it, Mr. Clever." I sincerely said and added, "I'll see you again for another meeting." I was about to open the passenger door when Maximus held me by the arm. It was a tingling sensation I had never felt before. Yes, not even with Sebastian. There was this certain feeling of waves that was making me even more heady. He leaned in, closing the gap between us. I lowered my gaze to his hand clasping around my slender arm. The way he held me was sending waves of flattering emotions I couldn't fathom. "In case you didn't notice, you looked so pale. I wonder if you could make it to your unit, so let me walk you home," he offered. Now I understand where this concern was coming from. I was so preoccupied with my own thoughts that I had put colors into his actions. Clearly, this man was extending his service to the best that he could. This answers why he was always favored by most clients. In return, I agreed to his offer. We walked into the house and I offered him a drink, but he declined. "Nice place you got here," Maximus said, scrutinizing the place. "I'm not yet done cleaning the entire house, but thank you," I sheepishly said as we were seated on the three-seater couch. "Don't you have anyone to look after you? Your parents, perhaps?" I cleared my throat. It felt like there was something blocking in there, causing me to struggle for words. He's putting me in a hot seat, but I felt responsible to tell bits of my personal life. "The truth is, I don't know where my parents are," I begin, fidgeting. I had no idea of their whereabouts. "Are you an orphan?" Maximus quickly countered. He rested his back against the seat, looking at me. His hot gaze was enough to reel my senses, but I had to control myself. "Hormones, hormones." Shaking my head, I said, No, it's not what I meant. It's just I didn't get to see them after I married Sebastian. It was in the contract, so I had no choice but to comply." I bet you missed them much, he said, taking his phone from the pocket of his trousers. You have no idea, I mumbled. He was talking to someone from the other line, so I remained silent. Luckily, my headache was starting to fade now. I could answer his other questions in a flash. After a while, he ended the call and gazed up at me. I got a tip from my source, he told me. What about? I curiously asked right away. He looked at me for a second before he blasted the words, I'll pick you up at 8 Chaper in the morning tomorrow, so be ready. Chapter 5. That night, I kept tossing left and right on bed. Maximus' last word was playing in my head over and over. Why would he pick me up when I'm supposed to meet him in his office? That man was really something. I opened the night lamp and scooted out from the bed. Next, I reached for my phone and checked the time. It was past midnight, but I couldn't sleep. I flipped the duvet open and walked into the kitchen. I put the phone in the pocket of my jammies just in case I received any test messages, and then I could reply to them. Oh gosh, I need some water to calm my tense nerves. As I opened the fridge to get water, my phone rang non-stop. I almost jumped out of my skin and saw Sebastian's name on the screen. This bastard was in the mood to bother me during this ungodly hour. Walking toward the countertop, I put the bottled water aside and then sat on the chair. Chapter 5. What do you want? I snarled at the phone as if Sebastian could see me through the screen. The gadget kept on ringing and ringing until it stopped. The thought of talking with Sebastian was draining me, so I might as well ignore him. He was the negative energy I didn't need in my life. I'm so done with him. I bet he was busy with Hillary, so I don't understand why he was still bugging me. That selfish bastard. Several minutes passed when my phone dinged again. I picked it up and was about to end the call when I noticed another name on the screen. Maximus Clever was calling. For a moment there, I just stared at the phone, thinking of something to say. It took me a second before I finally swiped the answer button. Hello, Mr. Clever, I said, not minding the tension creeping into my chest. Silence, and then, I hope I didn't wake you up, he said gently. His baritone voice sank into me. It had been ages since I talked with another man over the phone, not to mention the one I barely knew. Back then, Sebastian would always remind me not to mingle or be friendly to any other man aside from him. I couldn't even go shopping without bringing guards with me. I was robbed of many experiences I should have gone into. Deprived of the things a woman my age must know and explore. I guess that's how fixed marriages worked, unfair and condemning. I cleared my throat and found my voice again. Hey, why do you call? I asked, mindlessly gripping the bottled water in my other hand. I just want to check on you, he paused and continued. Is your headache gone? Already gone? Yeah, you don't have to worry about me. I assured him. Chapter 5. You're under my wings now, so it's my part of my job to protect you in any possible way I could, Maximus explained. My past clients could attest to that. Under his wings, pretty drastic and fun. I nodded wordlessly. What else would be the reason other than that? I felt ashamed of myself for thinking so much about this matter. I wanted to slap myself for assuming too much. The thrill of emotions has been overriding me since I met this guy. My gosh, I'm starting to doubt my sanity whenever this man is around. I don't intend to get attached to Maximus Clever in any romantic way, but my pesky mind was telling me the other way. So then, I hastily threw the water bottle in the trash bin. Still there, Maximus brought me back to the present. Yeah, of course. I chuckled softly. I heard him clear his throat, causing me to smile a bit. I could sense it, like he was going to say more, so I waited. It was as if we were giving each other enough time to process the words before spilling them out. And when I finally found the courage to say my piece, Maximus' voice slithered through my ears. I'll see you tomorrow, then. Good night, Pauline. Good night, Mr. Clever. Swiftly, I headed back to my room and sat on the edge of the bed. Realization slowly sank in. My goodness, did he call me by my first name? Chapter 6. I woke up early the next day to review the documents. Just as I finished signing the divorce papers, I received a message from Sebastian. He wanted us to meet in this restaurant near his office. I knew that he was aware of my plan to divorce him. It would only take a matter of time before we could finally say goodbye to each other, and I couldn't wait for it to happen. I didn't reply but made a mental note to meet him this afternoon. There was no way I would trade my liberty for security again. I reckon the greatest flex in the world doesn't always revolve around money and exuberant things. Instead, the power to speak your mind, stand on your feet, and express yourself is the best way to a better life. I have never been a rebellious type, but Sebastian's cheating issue made me realize that there was a better version of myself. It's been there, hiding for a long time. And now I choose myself for real freedom, I said, caressing the tiny bump in my belly. We're gonna get it, my baby. I'll make you proud. After a while, I showered and opted to wear a tweed lavender dress and my favorite slip-on sandals. I love dressing up because back in the penthouse, Sebastian would only approve of the clothes I had to wear. I had lived under his rules and his approval was not to be ignored. That sucks, yes. Sadly, I'm done being a people pleaser. Once done with my hair, I swiped a lip tint and pressed powder onto my face. I had to put on some colors to conceal my pale face. I was checking my bag when the doorbell buzzed. That must be him, I said, looking at myself in the mirror. I trudged to the door and opened it. Maximus was dashing in his plain white long sleeves and black slacks. The streak of lights beaming from the sun cascaded through his gorgeous, manly physique. Chapter 6, making him even more scrumptious. I swear, this man could pass as a model. He smelled so good, too. Like wood and musk. Fresh and clean. Are you ready? He asked me. Oh, I just get the document inside. I ran back to the living room and got the envelope and walked back to the foyer. Careful, Pauline. You don't want to hurt your baby, do you? Maximus chastised me. I don't know, but it felt like the implication was laced with utter concern and something I couldn't name. After I locked the door, we headed on to his car. He opened the passenger door for me and I gently sidled inside. Seconds later, Maximus was already settled behind the steering wheel. I looked outside the window, appreciating the beauty of today's weather. The traffic lights turned red, so stopped for a while. By the way, Mr. Clever, I began, fidgeting. He swiftly turned his head and gazed at me. His ocean blue eyes were as if making love to me without taking my clothes off. The very thought made my insides rumble. I could feel my cheeks warming up, so I had to look away. You re-saying? He asked, still looking at me. I already signed the papers. My hands went around the seatbelt. I held onto it tight as if getting enough strength from it. All right. He floored the gas and drove again. I bit my lower lip and mentally scolded myself. My emotions were getting erratic whenever I was with him. And I don't know where this sensual tension was coming from. Could it be I'm attracted to him? Infatuated, perhaps. Or maybe I was seeking someone's affection. The one I didn't get from my douchebag husband. These crazy ideas were like pests buzzing in my head. I was busy contemplating with spiraling thoughts when the car pulled in front of a familiar restaurant. I was too preoccupied to even notice that we had passed by the Levine's tower. Wait, you did not tell me why are we here? I asked Maximus. We're going to meet your husband, he answered sternly. Chapter 7. I was sweating profusely as I walked inside the restaurant. It had been weeks since the last time I saw Sebastian, and this confrontation made me anxious at some point. It felt like meeting your conquered nightmare all over again. Yes, I had been longing to tell him the grudges I'd been holding up, but still, I had to compose myself. The receptionist ushered me and Maximus into this VIP lounge. As the door opened, I saw the man I once loved. Sebastian looked up at me and our eyes met. You look tense, Pauline. Relax. I'm here beside you, Maximus whispered as he walked beside me. I averted my gaze at him and nodded wordlessly. I slid into the chair opposite Sebastian, staying neutral and passive. It felt like the room shrunk into a small box, making the air thick with the weight of unspoken words. We stayed like that for a moment while Maximus prepared the documents on the table. And when the food was served, Sebastian took the initiative to speak. I ordered your favorite dishes, he proudly said, smiling at me with aplomb. Indeed, the table was replete with dishes according to my likes. Nonetheless, I could not appreciate them at all. I felt nauseous when the scent of garlic slithered through my nose. I held onto the hem of my dress and fought hard not to throw up. I'm not supposed to give him any hint about my pregnancy. A monster like him is not worthy of my child. Anyway, I've been reaching out to you for days, but you weren't answering any of my messages or calls. Are you playing hard to get, my pesky wife? Sebastian complained, almost snapping at me. I don't have to explain myself to you, I countered, adamantly shaking my head. Really, huh? He turned his attention to Maximus and added, thanks to your lawyer contacting me yesterday, I got to see you again. Sebastian sneered. I knew that this conversation would only add fuel to the fire. So then I pushed the envelope to him. He gave me a hard look before hastily spreading the documents on the table. The divorce papers inside are now sealed with my decision. We redone, Sebastian. I am leaving you and your mistress for good. The firmness in my voice left no room for doubt. He leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. So you really going through with this? You kidding me, right? I'm afraid not. I let out a tired huff. I've wasted 3 long years with you. I'm not going to stay with you for the next 20 years of my life. I thought we could talk things through, he said, his tone betraying a hint of desperation. Start over. We can work this out. I held tighter at the hem of my dress. I felt like I was drowning in sensory overload. His cologne mixing with the smell of onions and garlic was hitting me squarely, making me even dizzier with each passing second. My stomach churned heavily. I just want to get this conversation done. I don't want to be with you, Sebastian. Just sign the papers and we good, I said, keeping my tone flat. You don't mean that, Pauline. I know you. You just hurt. He paused, then pressed on. Let's settle this matter at home. I took a deep breath. The memory of countless broken promises flashed before me. I've put up with his lies and his affair for too long. I've tried to make excuses for him, telling myself that it would get better, that he would change. I had to remind myself that this was the same man who had readily broken his vows and lied to me without batting an eye. The same man who shattered my heart piece by piece and broke my trust. There's nothing you can do now, Sebastian. I don't deserve you. He stood up and grabbed me by the waist. You trying to punish me, I know. You jealous of Hillary, but believe me, she doesn't count. I just need the kid for us to be a complete family. I was about to sprinkle him with nasty words when a familiar woman entered the room. There on the threshold, Hillary stood with a triumphant smug on her lips. Chapter 8. I have never been violent all my life, not even in moments when anger seemed the only natural response. I had always been the reasonable one who resolved things with words and understanding. But what words could mend the shattered trust and the sickening betrayal that took root in my heart? And today was different. Seeing my husband's mistress in full flesh made my insides rampage. The confidence exuded in the curve of her lips and the way she sashayed her hips was enough to reel my raging hormones. I pushed Sebastian away and fixed myself. I lifted my chin and faced the bitch, using the same energy radiating through her. Maximus gave me a reassuring nod, indicating that everything was under his control. That no matter what happened, he would protect me at all costs. With that, my confidence was boosted. I am ready to conquer this bitch. Hillary stopped an inch from where I stood. Oh, the lousy wife was here, she mocked, glaring at me. At least I'm not a mistress. I shot back heatedly, trying to pull myself together. Sebastian stepped forward, slipping himself in between us. His gestures showed how much he cared for the sneaky bitch. He just proved his stupidity. On the other hand, Hillary's eyes burned into me, obviously relishing the moment. I looked away, not because I was hurt, but because I felt insulted and disgusted. These two had no decency. I'll say this one more time, I said, getting everyone's attention. What is it? Hillary preened herself against Sebastian. She looked like a mother hen protecting her offspring. Enraged, I pulled her away and snarled at Sebastian's face. Sign the divorce papers now. I can't do that, Pauline, Sebastian adamantly hissed. You won't get away from me. I shut my eyes and looked up at him once more. Unbelievable. I walked out of the room and Maximus followed after me. He guided me through his car, and I cried as soon as I sat down. He didn't make any comment and just let me do my thing. I cried and cried until there was nothing left to cry. After some time, Maximus held me a pack of tissue to clean my face. I got it and wiped the dry tears on my cheeks. Moments later, I caught a glimpse of Maximus, knuckles clamped around the steering wheel. He had rolled the sleeves of his shirt up to his elbow, revealing the protruding veins in his toned arms. Sniffling, I craned my head and stared at him. He looked so calm and dangerous at the same time. I'm not sure, but he seemed upset. Do you want me to send you home? He carefully asked, looking intently at me. Yes, please. I'm exhausted after that encounter with Sebastian, I said, wiping the snot in my nose. You better get rested. Let's go home, then. I heard Maximus breathe out a deep sigh. I had a hunch that he was stressed about the meeting in the restaurant. The embarrassment was finally kicking in, eating me alive. I should have behaved properly like a mature woman of my age. I should not let my emotions empower me, but what difference would it make? He drove quietly, but I could feel his gradual stare whenever he got the chance. The sun was peeking through the slats of the blinds when I woke up the next day. I rolled to the left side of the bed and yawned. Every morning had become a ritual of dread and hope of what new stunt Sebastian would pull to delay the process. I swung my legs off the bed and did yoga stretching routines. The stiffness in my back was exhausting to deal with, but my morning sickness and dizziness had slowed down. As they say, pregnancy was not a walk in the park. Still, I learned to embrace the beauty of motherhood this early. Moments later, I walked to the kitchen and ate breakfast. I had to run errands today, so I showered and put on a simple peach dress matched with my favorite slip-ons. I breezed through my Mini Cooper and drove to the pharmacy to get vitamins. And then I headed to the supermarket. I pushed the cart to the dairy section, looking for milk when a tall, hefty guy approached me. I saw him twice in a business gala when Sebastian tagged me along. Fancy seeing you here, Pauline. You seemed lost, Luke said, smiling. Hey, Luke. Yeah, I'm looking for a particular brand of milk, I said, browsing through the rack. Let me help you, Luke offered. What do you prefer? I need low-fat milk for pregnant, I deliberately said, highlighting the word pregnant. Luke's eyes widened as he said, whoa, that's good news. You know, my wife is pregnant too. I'm finally going to be a dad soon. I smirked. Poor guy had no idea that his wife was flirting with my husband. Rage surged through me as the memories of cheating and the restaurant encounter flitted into my mind. For what it's worth, Luke had all the right to know the truth. It's too early to celebrate, Luke. I shook my head furiously. Your wife is cheating on you. The kid is not yours but my husband's. Luke stared at me in disbelief. Then his face went grim as he stepped backward. Chapter 9. I did not intend to be a villain, but some people would test your patience. What I revealed to Luke had him lashing out, resulting in him confronting Hillary to hear the truth. 2 days after that conversation with Luke, I called Maximus and informed him about filing a restraining order for both Hillary and Sebastian. I had to secure my safety since Hillary was sending me cryptic messages that were seemingly detrimental to me. I also heard that she and Luke argued to the point of losing her baby. She had a miscarriage and now she's seeing a therapist to cure her demons. Until last week, Hillary was sent to an asylum to get intensive medication. She lost everything when Luke divorced him faster than the bullet. For the first time in a long time, I felt the smell of revenge. It may be shallow to others, yet it was fulfilling on my part. After all the pain and heartbreak I've Chapter 9 been through, I believe I still deserve to be happy, too. I looked at myself against the full-length mirror. My baby bump was slightly showing now. There were moments when I could not believe that I was able to conceive a child. I even thought I was sick, that's why I could not produce an heir for my husband. But that's all in the past. I should focus on the blessings I have at the moment. I swiftly turned around and took one last glance in the mirror. I was jolted out of my thoughts by the doorbell ringing. It was too early for company and I wasn't expecting anyone. Who might that be? I asked myself and walked to the door. I opened the door and saw Maximus carrying bags of groceries in both hands. It was 10 in the afternoon, so I wondered why he was there. Without thinking twice, I swung the door wide and let him in. His familiar manly and fresh scent invaded my nostrils. He followed me to the living room and together we sat on the couch. What are these? I asked, pointing to the bags of groceries on the table. Your supplies, he shrugged, scrunching his forehead. But this is too much. You're not supposed to do this, Maximus. I rolled my eyes heavenwards. He smiled and I was stunned. We had known each other for several months, but this was the first I saw his panty-dropping smile. He was achingly beautiful when he was serious, but seeing him smile was another story to tell. His charm could melt butter. Like for real. You taking me seriously. Stop laughing. I poked his chest, he caught my hand and tucked it in his. I'm just happy, that's it. Care to tell me why? I insisted. He leaned in, closing the gap between us, and answered, in case you haven't noticed, you addressed me by first name and not some mister. I chortled demurely. Did I? Yes, you did. I love the way you pronounce my name, like it was a sensual music to my ears, he chided, chuckling. I blushed to the roots of my hair. Fine, we were getting close as the days passed by. I mean, not intimately, but I don't want to put colors on this. I loved his company and the joy of talking to him. He was very articulate, fun, and emphatic. He was a good friend, but that's it. We couldn't go beyond that. He didn't deserve a woman like me. Anyway, why are you here? It's too early to visit a friend, right? I asked, feigning nervousness. I don't know, but my heart was like skipping a beat. Like I was in a marathon. His face became serious as he shifted on his seat. I found your parents and they want to see you now. I gasped. I could not believe that I'm going to see them again. I cried tears of joy, of course. Without thinking twice, I hugged Maximus, stating how grateful I was since he came into my life. After an hour, we drove to the north. Maximus told me that my parents were living in Peach County. And too, he had met them a day before he told me about the good news. I was nervous during the trip until he pulled the car in front of a semi-bungalow house. We're here. Are you ready to meet your parents again? He asked me as we were walking in the yard. I am, but can you hold my hand as we get inside the house? One corner of Maximus' lips lifted upward. He fastened his long fingers into mine and intertwined our hands together. My parents were waiting for us by the door. Mom cried upon seeing me while Dad hugged Maximus. I cried against my mother's shoulder like the little I used to. Later on, we headed to the dining area. Mom said she cooked my favorite dishes. I felt so blessed despite the true breakthroughs I've had. After a week, I have decided to leave my apartment and live with my parents. Maximus was visiting me from time to time, checking on me, bringing stuff for me, my parents, and the baby's needs. Like tonight, he bought a bassinet, some toys, and bulks of diapers. "Why are you doing this, Maximus?" I asked him as we were alone in my room. He held my hand and kissed my knuckles one by one and said, "Why are you so dense, woman?" "What do you mean by that?" I countered, looking at his eyes. He kissed the tip of my nose before he whispered, "I'm in love with you, Pauline. Heart, mind, and soul." He pulled me close and covered his lips in mine, and when his tongue delved in the insides of my mouth, I eagerly kissed him back. 0. I woke up to the sound of heavy rain pouring on the rooftop. I checked the time and saw that it's almost midnight. Yawning, I felt the urge to pee, so I got and headed onto the bathroom. As I was pulling my nightgown, I heard a loud thud coming from somewhere. Nervousness crawled into my gut. Was it a burglar trying to break in? I carefully went out of the bathroom and walked through the hallway leading to the living room. The only light I had was the torch coming through my phone. The sound was getting clearer as I sorted toward the front door. I tried to keep my cool, but my nerves were betraying me. I was anxious as hell. What if someone out there was a cold-blooded criminal ready to get his another victim? And the victim had to be us. I mentally hissed through gritted teeth. I could not let it slide. Not when my 0 parents were asleep. I could hear low groans coming from the other side of the door. I put the phone in the pocket of my nightgown and looked and picked up the baseball bat standing on the end corner of the couch. I had to defend ourselves no matter what it takes. The banging was getting louder. This was dangerous, but I had no choice. I swung the bat and clicked the door. I was ready to hit the perpetrator with the bat when I recognized the man's face. "Sebastian," I screeched, watching him struggling on the floor. "Pauline baby, please come back to me," he begged. Sebastian held both my legs and managed to get up. He reeked of alcohol and smoke. My nose wrinkled at his vile scent. I had to push him away. I noticed his clothes were dirty, full of mud, and his hair was unkempt. He was crying so badly as he kept on telling me to come back to him. "Get off me. I'm not coming with you," I shouted, squirming free from his hold. But Sebastian didn't listen. Instead, he dragged me out of the porch, forcing me to get inside his car. I struggled, cried, and begged him to stop. He was so strong, and I was damn afraid. I was calling out for help, but no one could hear me because of the heavy rain. The typhoon just came later this afternoon. "Sebastian, don't do this, please," I pleaded, crying my heart out. "You are mine, Pauline. You won't leave me. No other man can take you away from me," he shrieked, riveting me on the spot. He was about to drive the car when I remembered my phone. Maximus. Yes, I need to call him. But how was he supposed to go here in this ungodly hour? But all the questions were gone when I saw Sebastian starting the engine, so I immediately kicked him and unlocked the door. I rolled out of the car and crawled against the wet, muddy road. I dialed Maximus' number and sent him a voicemail. I was freezing to death as the cold wind brushed against my skin. The big drops of rain were like shards of glasses slashing through my face. I tried to run, but Sebastian grabbed my legs. I was caught off guard again. All I could think of was my baby's safety. "Please, stop. I need to." I didn't know when, but I just heard the roaring engines from somewhere. I was blinded by the lights coming from the big bikes in the middle of the street. And from there, I saw Maximus looking magnificent in his bike. I felt relieved knowing he was finally here. "Maximus," I breathed, almost above a whisper. 0. I watched him pick Sebastian from the ground and hurled him to his bike. The next thing I knew, he cocked his gun and pulled the trigger. He shot Sebastian's one leg and the latter cried in pain. "Please spare my life," Sebastian pleaded, but Maximus had no time listening. He shot Sebastian's other leg and my freak husband dropped on the ground. That was the last thing I remembered before everything went black. The first thing I saw when I opened my eyes was Maximus. His eyes were closed as he sat beside my bed. If not for the scent of alcohol, I would not realize that I was in a hospital. I reached for his hand and he fluttered his eyes open. "Finally, you're awake," he said, kissing the back of my hand. "Why am I here? What happened?" One looked around the room. Maximus let out a deep breath and explained everything shortly. He also told me that he cleared all the damages, particularly with Sebastian. He also mentioned that he bought all of Sebastian's shares with every company he had invested with. He made sure to acquire everything the bastard owned, not to mention in just one day only. "Don't worry, he could never hurt you again," Maximus assured me. "What will happen to him now? 2 shots on the leg was no biggie. But yes, he's going to be riding in his wheelchair from now on." That selfish bastard. Maximus gritted his teeth. Tell me the truth, Maximus, where do you get those guns and armed men with you last night? I silently hoped he wouldn't lie to me. I wanted to hear the truth straight from his mouth. I guess this was the part where I had to shed some skin and reveal the real me. His face was dangerously serious, and there was something I couldn't name. I managed this classified organization, Pauline. My job in the court was just a beard to hide my real world. I did some bad things in the past, but that was to protect the organization. Maybe you re-scared of me now, and I understand that. I nodded wordlessly. The revelation stunned me, leaving my thoughts scattered like shards of glass. He had done so many things for me and stood by me when the ground seemed to fall away. For that, he deserved to be loved and protected just as fiercely as he had loved and protected me. I pulled him close and cocooned him in a warm embrace. He hugged me back and kissed the top of my head. His breath was warm against my hair, his heartbeat a steady rhythm against my chest. In that quiet space, I found comfort. More than that, I found understanding. I was glad he opened up this part of him that he had been hiding in the gray areas of his cunning but intriguing personality. I knew he was better than the man he was back then. When they say love is sweeter the second time it hits you. Maximus proved to me that quote is true. It does exist because he accepted me for what I am. It had been a wild ride of a year, but my divorce from Sebastian had finally been granted. The freedom I longed for was now in my hands. And the greatest twist in my life was when I gave birth to my Mila, my dearest daughter. She was my strength and the life ahead of me. When I first got here, I was scared of how my life had changed. I had heard the stories, seen the cold look in his eyes when he talked to his men, and seen how carefully he ran his business. Maximus had a different side when he was alone and not around other people. I doubt that anyone else had ever seen this side of him. I was humming a soft lullaby when Maximus went into the nursery room. He just came from his meeting with his new client. He walked toward me and dropped as much on my lips. I motioned for him to keep silent as I put the baby in the crib. Our angel is asleep, I said, turning to him. Maximus held me by the waist and rested his head against my chest. By the looks of it, he was beaten from all day's work. I let my fingers drift through his hair, tracing the dark strands with slow, soothing motions. He didn't say a word, and neither did I. This was our routine, after his late nights, our unspoken ritual. His world was chaotic, filled with business meetings, exchanges, and alliances, but here, with me, it was calm. Here, the weight of his responsibilities seemed to lift, even if just for a moment. Leaning down, I kissed the side of his head. He was a good provider, a loving husband, and a responsible father to my daughter. He took me and my parents under his wing, and I couldn't thank him enough for that. For a mafia boss, his patience was exceptional. We had slept in separate rooms since I moved in with him. Still, he had never forced me or crossed the lines. I never knew he could be this understanding. He was a full-blooded man who had needs, but he respected boundaries. The more reason why I am falling in love with him every day. Moments later, Maximus looked up at me and smiled. Oh, how I loved the way he smiled at me. Do you want me to prepare your dinner now? I asked him, wrapping my arms around his neck. The chef didn't come today. He looked alarmed. He did not want me to do anything aside from taking care of the baby. Chill, will you? I snorted with a laugh. I just felt the need to cook for my husband. Your husband, huh? He chided. A naughty smile spread across his lips. Maximus stood up and pulled me close. So close, I could smell his minty fresh breath. I felt heady, and my body responded to his soft touch. My breasts crashed against his sturdy chest, and my insides throbbed with anticipation. He slanted his head and kissed me fervently. I stifled a moan when he left my lips and then stared at me for a second. Why did you stop? I asked him, pouting. I don't make love to you in front of our daughter, he defended, smiling nastily. I bit my lip as he carried me in his arms. He closed the door to the nursery room and then headed to the master bedroom. He laid me on the bed and started kissing me. I felt hot all over. Maximus was gentle and hard, sweet and tangible. As he spread my legs and positioned himself into me, I vowed to surrender myself to him. I couldn't believe my happy ending would be with a cunning but sweet mafia boss end.